This video went way longer than I expected, so if you're looking for a very in-depth video on how to do dovetails and build a drawer box, this is it. Watch it. It is time to build some drawer boxes for the tool cabinet, but first a very brief recap. The carcass here is about complete. I was going to put it in place and put the tool cabinet top on it and start using it. But then I realized that in order to build the drawers, I was going to have to get down on the floor in order to take measurements and do fitting and all that, and that's no fun. So here it is up on my saw bench so I can get at it more easily and work at things to get good fits for the drawers. I've already made two and getting into the third, so hopefully by the third one now, it's going to look pretty good, and I can do it on camera without embarrassing myself. In the last video, I did a bunch of resawing for the drawer sides and backs. That's what all this poplar is. And of course, I've already got two drawers made, so only a small pile left for the tallest drawers. I've also got all of the drawer fronts cut out, and they all look pretty good. Everything is a little bit oversized, maybe an 1/8 to a 1/4 inch oversized, so I have to trim that down a bit before I can build the drawers. And that's where I am. One other detail, each of the 3 sets of drawer fronts are all continuous grain, so they should look pretty nice once all finished and in place. Honestly, however, the Paduk is going to darken up a good bit. The lighter stuff is going to get much closer to the dark color, so it's not really going to stand out very much at all. This was the first drawer that I made for the cabinet. It's on the bottom so that it's the farthest away from my eyes, so that neither I nor others can see just how bad of a job I did here. It's not terrible, but I certainly can get better. The sides are poplar, the front is Paduk, of course. Half-blind dovetails here in the front, and through dovetails in the back. This is just a drawer box. There's no bottom. I have not yet created slips for the drawer bottom to run in, and of course I did not cut any away here on the back to be able to slide a drawer bottom into. So yeah, these are only boxes, and my intent is to be able to finish the boxes and put them in the case here and just make it look good. And then as time and energy and interest allow, I will finish the drawers with the bottom and all that. The half-blind dovetails here are not perfect, but they're quite good, I think, especially for the first ones. There's a little bit of couple of gaps here and there, but not too bad on the outside. On the insides, however, there's a couple of gaps at each of the tails, so I can do better. The through dovetails on the rear corners look pretty good in my opinion. There's some cup on this one side here that I'm going to have to pull together when assembling the drawer. These are not glued together yet, and they're only held together with the dovetails, so I can see how everything comes together. Not ready to glue yet. Obviously, I don't have a bottom in yet either. Here's my second drawer, and you can see the half blinds here, and they look much better, much tighter. So a little bit of practice is worthwhile, but well, instead of practice, I'm just hiding the result by putting it at the bottom where it'll be harder to see. I have been working with the carcass flipped over on its side like this, with the the front facing up. Again, just so that I can stand in front of it and have an easier time looking at each of the drawer openings as I fit the various pieces together. So getting into the third drawer that I'm building here, everything has been trimmed down to a pretty tight fit. The drawer front, I might take just a hair off of this yet. It's a very tight fit. The drawer back is pretty good. You may notice that it's well short of the width of the space. This is on purpose. It's I'm going to say it's about a 1/4 inch too small. So I'm actually building the drawers as trapezoids because it's so much easier to put the drawer in here when it's pulled out. You're not fighting to get it lined up perfectly, and just that little bit is going to make it easier to get the back end in and then slide the whole thing in place. And the drawer sides here are also a tight fit. And I'm gonna say this is just where I want it. It really is a tight fit, too tight. But that leaves me plenty of room to be able to finesse the fit later. After this is glued up, I can just shave away just a little bit here or there to get the perfect fit. Back to the trapezoid drawers for a moment. This is the middle drawer, and here is the middle spot. And you can see how it fits in here. There's plenty of room there to make it easy to put in. And then of course it tightens up as it gets closer. I have the drawer sides here, and I want to lay out some dovetails, but I think it's worth noting that this is all done by hand. So when I was fitting these sides, they came out to different widths. One is ever so slightly taller than the other. It looks like a small amount. It's about 1/32 of an inch. One side is a little bit bigger than the other. That's not much, but I'm going to modify how I lay out the dovetails in order to try and hide that. I have here a middle drawer. The middle drawer I put together to describe how I'm going to lay out the dovetails and how I deal with the drawer widths being slightly different. So I have a couple of pairs of dividers here, and that's what I'm going to use to lay this out. Now, I think the normal way to lay dovetails out with dividers is to start at one end here and then sort of walk it across to the other side, right? And then on this side to walk it across to the other side. And the result is marks for where the pins and half pins will show. Now, the trouble with simply doing this with one pair of dividers when the drawer widths are slightly different is that it ends up pushing to the end of the drawer, top or bottom, left or right, however you want to look at it. One side is going to end up with a shorter pin than the other. On the other side, the other wider board. I feel like I'm not describing this well. So anyway, the way I'm going to solve it is with a second pair of dividers. This pair of dividers is marking in from the ends on both sides. And then I'm just walking from that indented mark to get the other dovetails. And in that way, these pins in between here are where that extra 1/32 of an inch is going to disappear. So 1/32 of an inch spread across these three is going to be completely unnoticeable. Whereas the alternative, just using one pair of dividers, would put that 1/32 of an inch just at this one end here. And so it stands out more easily that it's a little bit different, you know, on this side than this side. And, you know, one side of the drawer versus the other side of the drawer. Is 1/32 of an inch actually going to be visible? I don't know. I mean, probably not, right? I probably could get away without worrying about that. But the thing is, since this is all handmade and there are variations like that throughout the cabinet build, you know, there's a lot of this that just simply, it isn't square. It isn't perfectly the exact same length or width boards. And so I have a solution to deal with the variation. And that's the important part, that I have a way to deal with it. I made the pin pricks with the dividers. So now I'll just put a pencil in here to draw the line for the dovetail. Okay. And then as much as possible, especially for dovetails, I try to make sure to mark what's the waist. So I'll put X's in here. And then, I don't know, on these thin-sided drawers, I guess I kind of liked a rather steep angle, so I'm just using the bevel gauge to draw that in. And I've just realized I didn't mark the baseline yet with the marking gauge, so I'll have to go back and do that. I'm making these lines way longer than I have to. I don't know why. I do know why, because I don't have the baseline in place, so I don't know where to stop. No, there are lots of ways to lay out and cut dovetails. This is just what I've found works well for me. Of course, I already have a marking gauge set to be able to do this, since I've done a couple of these drawers already. So I'll just scribe across it. I don't hesitate to make a deep line and make it shown all the way across. I'm probably not going to plane it away. I don't mind leaving that there to be seen. I do mark the line all the way around and on both sides. It's particularly helpful when chopping away the waste, just to have that line there that I can work with. And then continuing with good marking, I'm going to just make sure that I know where the waist is on this side. And being able to see the lines is a great thing too. So here they are laid out. So you can see that I've got both the face and end grain marked for where I'm going to cut and remove the waist. I'm gonna saw this away as much as I can and then chisel it. So I'm gonna put this in the vise to saw it, but it is of course pretty thin, and so it will rattle a lot if I'm trying to saw it. So I use the other board, the other side, as a backer to help make this a little more stable when I'm cutting. So now we cut. The only part of this that's actually critical is that I'm going totally straight across. The angle of the tail doesn't actually matter. So if I don't follow my line, not a big deal. I don't have pins cut yet, so I don't have to match anything. All right. And then I'm going to take care of the waist with the fret saw. In case you can't get enough of me, I did do a video where I talked about my preference for the fret saw over the coping saw for dovetails. I don't think that one was very good. That one definitely wasn't good. It's a little better. To try and show my imperfections here, this one definitely runs a little bit below the baseline, and this one on the first half here, definitely a little below the baseline. And this one's just a little above, which is what I want so that I can chop it out. How's the other side look? That one's obviously very far below the baseline. That's a solid 32nd of an inch. This one also reaches down the lowest point. Say we're at a good 32nd of an inch. The whole thing is a little below though. And over here, not bad. This was the last one I cut, so hey, I should have practiced some more. For the ends here, I'm gonna flip the board on its side and use the dovetail saw again. But before I do that, I'm gonna use the chisel and deepen in this line and carve it out a little bit to make it a good knife wall or saw wall. Doesn't need to be super deep, but making that wall means that the saw will ride up against it, and I will be staying to the side of the marking gauge line then, as opposed to cutting through it, which is where I want to be. I want to be on it, not through it. There we are. I'll do the other one now. Yeah, I think I missed. Nope, that's where it is. Okay. I thought I made a new line there with my chisel, but that's the right one, right spot. Let's get rid of that piece. All right. Got a bunch of tails. Got to refine them, but they're set. To clean up these, I'm just going to use chisel and mallet and try and follow the line that the marking gauge left, where I can. This one is beneath. That one slightly stands out. And this one I can clean up. That's it. I've got both drawer sides dovetails, front dovetails cut. And the second set here, I've done a much better job of staying a little bit further away from the baseline, so I can chop those out. I didn't really have to chop the other ones at all. So to chop the baselines here, I'm really close to them, so I'm gonna actually put the chisel in the baseline. I'm not gonna chop straight up and down. I angle in a good bit, and that lets me undercut, so then there's a little extra space there when trying to squeeze the dovetails together. And of course I'll do that in all of them. I chop in the middle first and then work towards the ends. The ends are going to be a little bit more delicate, and so yeah, I'll take the hard part out first. Of course, I got to do the other side too. And the other side here, these are pretty close. This one's like right on. This one's just a little bit to take out. And this one's a little bit more. All right. So that was just a half-inch chisel that I used to chop that out. But I've also got a little dovetail chisel, a blue spruce, and that doesn't have anything on the sides here, no flat. So it's going to let me get in much tighter. And I will run through all of these and just try and make sure that they are clear right into the corners. And this is where I might do a little finessing afterwards too, just to make sure that I've got a good fit when I'm trying to put these together. So at this point I have my two sides, and I put them in here. It might be worth noting that, as this other drawer shows, it's supposed to be flush to the face of the frame, which means these are too long. I'm going to leave them too long for now. I'm going to get the front fit on there and decide then exactly how much I want to trim back to try and get the front flush with the frame. Really, the important part here is at this point, I haven't made any kind of decision about which is the show face and which is going to be internal to the drawer against the Padouk. So that's what I'm picking here. I don't know, this one looks pretty good as is. But I feel this is the first one I cut. I feel like this side is a little bit cleaner than this side. I've got two notable dives here, and I'd rather hide them inside the drawer. So this is how I'm going to orient my pieces. And this is the bottom of the cabinet, so mark it all up. This is the bottom. This is the right-hand side. And this is the interior of it. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. I feel like marking it all up is very important just to not screw up. Bottom left in. And bottom right. So now I'm ready to look at the piece of Padouk and half-blind dovetails. So this is my drawer front, and this is actually the inside. I have written here bottom, written with a white pencil. I'm sure it doesn't show up on camera well, but that's fine. And then I'm also looking at this board right here, and I have bottom written here. I feel like one of the biggest tricks is just making sure you got all your pieces lined up. So this is the one I'm going to work on first. The drawer front's going to go in the vise here loosely. I use a plane to help space things out so that I can transfer and mark the pins. There we go. Feels good, flush. And then I'm going to use the plane as the spacer. So this is the bottom side of the drawer. This is the bottom here. They line up. So now I just have to transfer the lines. Normally with a lighter wood, if I were transferring to a lighter wood, I would just use a pencil and the pencil would be fine. The only difference between, in my opinion, the only difference between using a pencil or using a knife is really just about what you can see and knowing what side of the line you want to cut on. The pencil has a fatter line, so it's easier to decide that the pencil line needs to be kept or it needs to be cut away. A knife line is a bit harder to see, but on the dark Padouk, I feel like there's no option. The pencil doesn't show up. I don't have a white pencil that will write well enough to show up, so just got to transfer the lines with the knife. Try and make relatively gentle cuts and just do them a few times as opposed to going hard into it. Lining it up. So lining up the side here to the drawer face, I'm really just trying to get the corners of the boards to just be touching. And that should make for a pretty good fit. So yeah, obviously I'm just eyeballing it. I don't have any kind of jig or anything to help me get it right. All right, I got some lines. So I'm going to take the drawer face out of the vise and, you know, flip it around a good bit to be able to know exactly where I want to mark everything. I suppose I could have done this beforehand, but I didn't. Again, I have the marking gauge set because I'm doing so many of these. So the knife lines are just difficult to make out. You know, there's not a whole lot in there. So I'm going to try and just mark what the waist is going to be. So that's where a tail will fit in. And then of course this is a pin. So that means this is a tail that needs to get removed. And that's a pin. And that's a tail. And then that's a tail. So I'm going to mark them on the face here too, even though I haven't marked vertical lines to guide me yet for a cut. The more I mark it up, the harder it'll be to screw up, because I've tried to do a good job of making sure I know exactly what it is I'm supposed to do. And now since these lines were right up against the the dovetails when I transferred, I'm going to try and cut inside the waist of these lines. I don't want to cut anything in the tail side here, so I need to keep my saw and chisel on this side of the marking knife lines. So to transfer the lines to the inside, the side facing me, of the drawer, I'm going to use my little square here and just dropping my knife into the knife line on top here for the tail, dropping it in right on the corner, and then I put the square there, and then I move the knife to feel where the depth of the marking gauge scribed, so that I can cut a line in there. I don't really care too much about turning the spear point for each side. The fit is going to be tight enough that doing it the wrong way is totally fine. And I'm not really cutting that deep that the angle of the spear matters a whole lot, I don't think. So yeah, that's it. This is the tricky one because I got to work on the other side. All right, it's all completely marked up at this point. So I'm going to try and cut away a little bit, but it's mostly chopping. And I have only done one side. The other side of this is completely untouched. Haven't bothered yet. So again, my goal here is to stay completely inside the knife lines from transferring the tails. Inside the knife lines are going to be the waist, and that's where I want to remove the wood, in the waist. Sawing here is pretty minimal because I'm trying not to go past the lines I marked on the face or the end. I like to throw a Morton cut in here, something right in the middle to just make chopping the pieces out a little easier. I need to get a little more light in here to be able to see these really well. And when cutting the tails, I know I said I don't really care too much if I follow the lines precisely, because I'm just creating the tails, and whatever angles I create is fine. But once I transfer pins, now it's important that the pins match. All right. So I guess these are pretty good. You can see that I went a little past on some of them, but that's not bad. It's hard to see, even with my glasses on. So I've got to chop this waste away, and that's a fairly time-consuming process because the Padauk likes to split, so we got to take small bites. So chopping these, I'm again just going to use the 1/2-inch chisel and a mallet. Going into these, I'm not going to go on the baseline. I'm sure that's way hard for anybody to see, but the baseline is back here. I'm going to be at least a solid 1/16, maybe a little bit more away from it. And I'm also not going to chop straight down. I'm going to chop at a pretty hard angle to try and work in towards my destination. And then I can clean that up afterwards. And I'm getting right to the saw line. And then pop it out. Gotta take real little bites because this will split. And, you know, that makes a mess. We don't want to split. So we just keep repeating this. I'm gonna go back in, chop it, angle my chisel pretty hard, give it a good hit or two, And keep moving down. Take another piece out. Take another bite. And pop out another little piece. Maybe somebody wants to watch this just off camera here. I have a stop now, so splitting pieces out is a little bit easier. So yeah, the pieces I'm splitting out here are probably 32nd of an inch, maybe a little heavier for some of them at some angles. I don't try and hammer, real deep when I'm chopping the mortise here, because all it's going to do is just drive the chisel in further and compress more fibers and make them harder to break apart. So just a couple of hits is all it takes to loosen things up so that they'll come out. I'm getting pretty close. I'm right at the line. I've chopped away most of this. You can see on the left here, I'm actually on the line, and the right, I've got a little bit to go. You can also see that the corners here, while I try and angle the chisel in to get at them, I'm not terribly concerned at this point. I'm just trying to remove the bulk of the material in here. Being right here at the line, I'm gonna try and do this a little bit differently. I stand the board up now and try and chop through from this direction. Here I am trying to keep the chisel straight. I'm not angling it away to undercut. And then with all that gone in the center, It's easy to step over towards the corner to try and get into the, well, the corner. And the other side too. So here it is now. It's worth noting, remember I was angling and trying to stay away from my line here. As you work at chopping this stuff out, the edge here starts to just crumble and fall away, which is fine. The edge that I was working at, you can see the line that I scribed is right there, so I'm still proud of it, and I can chop that straight down and remove that waste no problem. For the corners, I'm going to stop with the mallet and really just work by hand and use the dovetail chisel and the fishtail chisel are both incredibly handy for this. I'm going to say that videoing this is rather difficult because I've often been just holding the boards wherever is comfortable in order to work out the waste. Whereas here, you know, doing the video, I'm trying to hold this in the same spot so that it shows up on camera. As I get more of the waste removed, I will get closer to the line. Just about on it there. I could probably even put this in and try and chop that out. It won't take much to cause that to split away. As I try to finesse this stuff, I don't actually use the mallet. I typically just use my hand to give it a little bump to the chisel. Trying to just make the marking knife line a bit more obvious when I get into the corner here, so that I can remove just the corner. Yeah, I find the fishtail here really handy for this. Can get in a variety of different angles quite easily. The way that I did this prior to the fishtail was I have an 1/8 inch chisel and of course the marking knife. So just kind of working repeatedly with the tools in here and just trying to break away just a little bit at a time. But the dovetail chisels and the fishtail really make this much easier. All right, slightly reposition the camera, and now I'm going to try and go into the other corner here. On this corner, I can see that I apparently broke out a piece of the very edge of the tail right here. The pin, the very corner of the pin, where the very corner of the dovetail would fit in, is broken out. That doesn't really matter here for the drawers. The edge of the pin missing is going to get covered pretty well by the corner of the tailboard when that's assembled, and it won't be noticeable too much. And then from the inside of the drawer, it won't be noticeable at all. So this is really just going back and forth between splitting out a little bit more and then cutting it away. And that's pretty good. All right, so here's the close-up. This right here is the corner that I mentioned is broken away just a little bit. Very small. And over here on this side, I think it looks to me like I'm not quite on the marking knife line. So I can trim away just a little bit more. But I'm gonna chop this down and get rid of this waste here to get to depth, and then I'll just run back through the corners and take care of those. Before I get back into chopping that stuff away, it's rather important to keep the workspace clear. All these little pieces, if I just lay my board back on them, they'll no doubt put some dents into my drawer front, and I want to keep that clean, of course. But the other thing is that the Padauk actually, the red of it, it stains everything. So the less contact it has with stuff, and the less chance there is to rub against other things, including me, the less red staining there will be. So I'm going to go right to the line now, the marking knife line, and I'm going to have my chisel pretty much vertical. Undercutting this is fine. It'll leave just a little tiny bit of space for the glue to sit in. And again, I started in the middle, and I'm going to creep up towards the edge. I am not at the very corner yet. the less I have to remove in the very corner, the more easily I can chop through it and just be sure I've got a good clean edge and I'm not taking such a bite that it splinters out somehow. All right, so working towards this corner now. Again, I'm not quite in the corner. There we go. Actually, so for this edge here that I said was splintered out, I don't think I'm actually there yet. Here it is cleaned up. You can see the nice straight baseline. I'm not so sure that this is broken away now. I can't see it on camera at all, but I think my knife line is right there. So the top part of this may just have chipped away where the knife line is. So I think I have a little bit of cleanup I can do at that edge. And then of course I can get into the corner a little bit tighter there. You can, I think, just see that I've got a little bit of paring I can do to take off just a little bit more for that corner too. All right, so I forgot to turn on the camera when I was doing this edge here, cutting a little bit out, but here I'm gonna split out the remaining side from the right hand pin, tail, whatever. Again, I'm not going to try and go all the way. I'm going to just take off a little bit and then work in towards it. And as I get right into the corner there, I can feel so much more resistance because, of course, there is some more waste in there to come out. So I'm just going to work it away with the dovetail chisel and the fishtail. Now, I don't really care about getting these corners absolutely perfect through the whole depth down to the base. Certainly that'd be nice, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to trim the tail a little bit to fit in here more easily, and that's going to look good on the outside, the visible side, but on the inside it's just going to hide all of the crap I can't quite get out here. Cutting these half blinds is exactly why making these jars is taking so long. I guess I haven't completely tried to time it yet, and that's part of why I'm curious to record some of this in video, because of course I will have a record then of how long it's taking me, but it's hours. All right. I think that's probably pretty good. So finally here we are, one pin complete. It looks pretty good. Hopefully it's a match and will fit well. I noticed that my corner there, or my side there, is not straight. I wonder what I did. Was I not supposed to take a little more off there? Will there be a gap? Who knows? We'll see. Still got a bunch more to do. With the camera off, I forged ahead on the sockets. This was the first one I made, and then of course second, third, and fourth. So they're all complete now. You can see the baseline scribe on the pin still, so I'm down to the line on all of them, and I'm at the line here on all of them. Looks pretty good. There's certainly some stuff still in the bottom corners, but they're pretty clean. So yeah, so this side is done. Each one of these sockets took me between 16 and 21 minutes, according to the stopwatch. I would say that the average was about 20 minutes. I don't know how I did the one in 16. That went definitely much quicker than the others. But to get them in this shape, yeah, about 20 minutes a piece. I say that, but I did, before turning on the camera just now, I did go back over all of them and tried to take care of, you know, any vertical stuff here that might have been sticking out, and tried to get into the corners a bit more. I guess I probably spent another 15 minutes going over all four of them, all four of the sockets. So that's where it is. Let's see how it fits. I guess I'm going to try and offer some video of this in two steps. First, what I'm doing, my point of view. Just double checking I got the right piece. Bottom, bottom, yep. Let's see how it lines up. This first one looks quite good. It is almost in. The next one here, that side looks a little loose, disappointingly. And that side is perhaps a little tight. So I wonder if my board shifted. I don't know. Looking at the next ones, this one looks quite good. And this one looks pretty good as well. This was the first socket that I cut. It looks like I did trim the socket a bit too wide. But it's a pretty good fit. I'm going to drop this in the vise and try and give you a better view. All right, so here's everything lined up, at least loosely. And here, this is the second tail, where you can see that the socket looks a little big. And we can't see a scribe line over here at all, so maybe I missed that. But the others all look pretty good. This was the first socket that I did where there was a little different angle to the inside edge at the pin there, and obviously I took out too much. But I think it looks okay. Why bother checking right here right now? I don't know. I'm not sure there's anything I could do if things were really off, but I always check it at this point. So I didn't actually try and fit the tails in. And the reason for that being, well, I knew it wasn't going to fit. But what I try and do here is cut away a little bit of the tail, making sure I'm on the inside, just to add a little bit of relief space. Tight into the corners are where there's likely to be some extra material hanging around, you know, especially in tight in these corners. And these corners, no, this is the outside edge. Tight in these corners and these corners are where I'm most likely to be running into some material that's really difficult to remove. But hey, if I just cut a little bit away to help create some space there, it'll fit no problem. And since this is the inside of the drawer, it will never be seen. That is the inside of the dovetail. It will never be seen. I'm actually removing a fairly significant amount here, probably close to 1/16 of an inch along the length of the tail and the pins here. And a 1/16 of the depth as well. So yeah, it's a lot. And there's a good look at the edges now. This is, of course, the area that I've cut away. So there's a whole new facet on all of these. And that's going to provide a little extra space for things to fit together, I hope. So let's try that. All right. I'm not trying to drive it all the way in. I'm just trying to get a feel for where it feels tight and loose, and I'm gonna go back and make some adjustments. So let's see. Remember that Padauk dust complaint? Well, it's also great because it'll leave behind little rub marks. That's not much of anything. I'm not worried about that. However, down here further, there's definitely quite a bit there. And looking at this side, that one's got a good bit. That corner's got a good bit. And same with there. That's a very heavy line. So I'm going to trim that stuff away a little bit, and then I will try and refit. Okay, I've trimmed the tails down a little bit more, and we'll try another fit. Let's see how it goes. Again, I'm just gonna try and lightly put it together. I want to get a feel for where it will and won't fit well. Okay. A couple important lessons from that one. Let's see. Get it in camera if I can. Here. All of this feels pretty good. This one, this is the corner that I felt I couldn't see where the socket was. Like it wasn't poking out from beneath the tail. And that is definitely way, way, way tight. Too much of a problem. Something needs to open up a bit more there. And then worst of all is right here. Let me see if I can show it. Yeah, there. My corner is broken. So I need to try and open that up to be able to fix that. If this piece of wood will just hang on, I'm just going to leave it there. When I do actually glue it up, I'll just throw an extra dab on there and it'll be just fine. Perhaps we're showing here for this corner where things broke out. I'm trying to go back into the corner a bit more and clean out a little bit more. But more than that, I'm trying to actually undercut it. That is, get in there more than I think I should need to. Chiseling in like that. I guess not a terribly severe angle for the most part, but just enough to be able to ensure that clearance is not a problem right there. And that's how I'll get that one to fit better, I think. I also went back over the over the tails here and have tried to clean out some of the corners, but as well also remove any pink dots from the Padauk coloring left behind. All right, let's try fitting again. This is very much an iterative process. You can see I didn't have to tap it at all. And this side is like halfway in now, and this is close to it as well, I'd say. So I think this spot is still the biggest trouble. And I think on this one, it's a distinctly different sound. I think on this one, I'm actually rubbing against the Padauk here someplace. So yeah, this wall is probably sticking out, so I'll go back in and undercut it a bit more in the Paduke. And for some slightly different cleanup here, this is the tail that doesn't really sit right, and looking at it, the tail is not quite cut straight. So I bet the inside is just about where I want it, but the outside here is not. So I'm going to pare a little bit away, and hopefully that'll do it. That looks a little better to me. All right, I'm going to try and fit it again. Maybe this one is the charm. Yeah, this is just on this side, on the left here. I feel like this is ready to drop in pretty much all the way. And now this is the one that I just trimmed, and I can see the pin wall right there. So that looks pretty good too. All right, here we are. I think it all fits pretty good. There's a little bit sticking out here on this tail, and this one is of course broken and pushing up just a little bit. Like I said, this one I cut the pin too far back this way, so there's a tiny little gap in there. And now there's a tiny little gap in here too. But it is smaller than where I miscut the baseline, so maybe that's good. I realized the last clip I didn't really show. It was just out of frame where this broken tail is sticking up. So that's it now. Not bad. I mean, that'll easily be hidden after glue up and planing. This one is open a little more than I'd like, but it's a very small amount. And there's the humongous gap at the baseline. Of course, you're looking at this really zoomed in now. I can't see it this well with my naked eye, so yeah. So I am pleased with how all of this looks, but just trying to, give a little measure to what it looks like. This opening at the baseline is definitely beyond the 32nd of an inch, and I would say it is not quite a 16th. There's some fuzz material here on the board side that kind of sticks out a little bit. Still not too bad. As far as these gaps, like around the pins, it's like a 32nd at most. Really tight. So I don't feel bad about that. If you're concerned about here how I sawed past the line, I mean I'm not. I don't object to that. We're looking at what, 1/8 of an inch past. And I feel like a lot of that disappears once you get oil on it and everything starts to age. The Paduk, as great as this is in terms of having some beautiful color variation and stuff, it's all going to even out quite a bit more within another 6 months, another year, and it will get darker from putting some oil on it, and these will be harder to see. Plus, you know, it's the side of the drawer. This isn't actually the part that we look at usually. So, pretty good. Now here's the inside of the drawer. You know, the opposite side of that joint. And if you remember, I chose to put this side of the drawer side on the inner piece because I wanted to hide it. Those are some larger gaps, and you know, I don't need to show off my bad work by putting it on the outside so much. So let's see if we can see how big this is. Oops, switching cameras. Yeah, that's clearly going to be like a 1/16 of an inch gap that I went past the baseline with the fret saw. And for this one, it's the same. You know, actually, it's even perhaps a little bit bigger. So yeah, that's where the drawer is. Now I notice I can see the baseline inside here. How square is the drawer side? Let's check that out. So here it is, no jiggling of the side or anything. And at the bottom it's tied in, but hey, once we get up there, it's a solid 1/4 inch away. But no problem. You know, the whole assembly is pretty flexible right now, and so this is well within close enough to being able to be used. When I get all 4 pieces together and make the box, it'll have a better structure, and then putting the drawer bottom in is what will actually force it to be square or trapezoidal, as the case may be, since I'm making drawers that are a little bit tighter at the back than the front. So that's this side that I just finished. Now I have to move on to this side and do it again. Hopefully a little better even, because always got to try and do it better each time. Again, each one of these were taking me about 20 minutes or so to chop out. That of course doesn't include the layout or the sawing that we did before, anything like that. So this side is well over another hour and 20 minutes for 4 sockets. If I can do it in 2 hours, I'll feel pretty good about that. It's a labor of love. Okay, here we are. Both sides are now chopped out and cleaned up. This is the one that I just completed. It looks pretty good to me. It took me just shy of 2 hours. I screenshot the timer. I'll add that. And I'm ready to try and fit this. So same as last time, I'm just trying to judge what I've done here. And I think it looks pretty good. It occurs to me, so the reason that I don't chamfer the underside here first before trying to fit is because I want these corners here so that I can look at where everything is lining up and see how it will probably fit. But I think this looks really good. I think it looks closer than the last one for sure. Probably worth noting that I'm just jumping into cutting these because I know this is the correct side because I labeled it all. Labeling is really important to not screwing up. I didn't always know that. All right, let's see how it fits. All right, just making sure the bottom and bottom are there. So I'm doing this on the right side. So on the other side, you may remember, like there was almost no give at all to get the tails into the sockets, and here I'm pretty far down just from hammering with my hand. So there's definitely some resistance in this one, and a little bit here perhaps. The two ends look like they'll fit just fine, and this is in, in pretty far. Just about a 1/16 proud still. So looks good. And let's see. There's a little bit of rub off on each one of these. A little here too. But definitely buried in there. On this side. Yeah, on this side I've definitely got some there. Down in there. And a touch there. So I'm not sure what's hanging up on these two, but these are definitely the two that are giving the most resistance. Maybe there's just something stuck right there, right at that corner. And there. Maybe that's all there is to it. I'll clean it up and give it a try. All right, when I was cleaning those out, I ended up breaking off this little corner a little bit. Let's see. And I broke off that corner. I've saved it so I can glue it back on. This is the show face, the outside of the drawer, so it kind of matters. But yeah, that little piece broke off, so I saved it. I can glue it back in. That's not a big deal, but annoying. And yeah, that seems like it's in there pretty good. So there we are. A good fit. Definitely better than the last ones. There. So you can really see the hole left behind by my broken piece. But again, gluing that in will fix it, no problem. And those all look pretty tight. Very nice. Now for the inside, it's not perfect. You know, you can see the little gaps there where I went a bit too far with the baseline, but I doubt anybody will recognize that. You know, that's the small error I would aim for. The next ones will get a little better still, I hope, but I'm pleased with that. I have 3 sides of a drawer now. So this was the side that I did first, and this is the new side, and that's great. It's ready for a back, almost. I'm gonna see how it fits. All right, back at the cabinet here. So this is the bottom, this is the top of the cabinet. And it's pretty good. I guess there are a couple of things that I'm kind of looking at here, which I could tell without test fitting, but I want to know if, you know, did I actually make these in the right plane? Did I cut them in the right plane? Does one side stick up more than the other to the point that's going to cause trouble or anything like that? But then just trying to verify that I'm on the right track. And maybe the thing you can see with the shadow line here is that it doesn't sit flush yet. My sides are too long. I've left them, I've cut them that way on purpose. They're too long in that they're just about a dovetail length too long. So, you know, if I happen to completely screw up these dovetails on the side, I have just enough to be able to start over. You know, if I end up mischopping the sockets, I can cut off the side dovetails and try and better fit it. But I'm not there, so I'm gonna cut these to length. So here's a closer look at how proud the drawer front is of the case. And yeah, I'll just take the sides down. Just take them down. The thing is, remember, all of this is handmade, so there is definitely some variations. So on this side, you can see that the dovetail sockets don't poke through here at this end at all, but they do here. So I'll want to make sure to cut the sides properly to ensure that that will sit well. Actually, jumping back to the middle drawer here, you can see that I screwed up and the drawer front is sitting low now. I can, you know, I can do some things to fix that, but if I can get it right just by cutting the side length, that is preference. And over here on this side, I think it's very easy to see the sockets sticking out. So the two sides should be slightly different lengths in order for the drawer front to sit flush. So I'm going to take some measurements to try and make that work. I was thinking, I wonder if I should be dropping a gauge on there just to transfer the mark. I don't know. I don't really want to scribe a gauge line against the back of the cabinet side. I want to square it from the bottom, I think. But, yep, that's what's next. All right, I transferred a little tick mark here, and I'll go with it. See what happens. The left and right drawer sides do have different marks. So hopefully that will let me get a perfect fit. We'll see, I guess. Use the crosscut saw, sash saw. I'm going to try and stay on the waist side of my piece here, just to get the right fit. All right, that's it. Now the other one. All right. Since I've got the shooting board and plane, I'm going to use that to clean up the edge. And let's see, yeah, this is the bottom, so I'm referencing against the bottom that I want to. And just try and take off a little bit to ensure I've got a straight fit. My pencil line is just visible, and I think it's pretty well flush. I mean, I cut pretty straight, so that was okay. This one, the bottom is this side. So just making sure to use the same reference points that I have throughout the whole process. This one's not quite as, I didn't cut quite as well, I guess. Up here, it's not quite there. I think that's good. All right, so I'll put it back together and see how it all fits. Yep. Okay, back to the case. Let's see how it fits. It's pretty good. I could take this side down a touch. And on this side, here's flush, here's a little proud. So I think I'll shave a few more off of this side And then the way I'll flush this after the fact is the drawer front I'll change. Okay, this is take 3. I trim down this side a little bit, just a couple of passes, and that's pretty close. I'm pleased with that. Okay, so now we need dovetails to be able to use the back here and get that all fit. This is the middle drawer that I already made. So just sort of showing what I'm going to do here. Of course, this is the side profile, and the dovetails on the front are exactly the same as what I've just done for the drawer I'm making now. And the back are simple through dovetails. And so, well, hey, they'll be a whole lot easier. But what I'm doing differently with these is, well, they're going to have the exact same spacing as the front ones, except I'm not cutting the last tail and half pin out here. I'm just leaving this as is. Reason being, some amount of this back is going to get cut away in the future because I'm going to need to have access to slide the drawer bottom into. I haven't made the drawer slips yet to hold the bottoms, so I don't know exactly how much of this I'll be cutting away. But I bet, imagining I've cut them just like at the top here, I bet that I'm going to be cutting away a solid 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8 of an inch to make space, which means this whole half pin and portion of the tail will be completely removed. So hey, no reason to do it in the first place, right? Here's one of my drawer sides, so I'm going to go through the exact same process of laying out the dovetails. I have the one divider set for my inset here, and this one I have to do both ends. Even though I'm not going to cut both ends, I have to do both ends so that I get the right placement for everything. Okay. And then I can turn that into a line. And I don't remember which side of this is the bottom. I noticed it when I put it in the vise, but I forget now. Because the bottom I don't have to worry about cutting at all. So let's check. Right, so this side is the bottom. So this doesn't matter. I don't know if I can erase it. End grain is hard to erase. It looks okay though. All right, and then I've got my bevel gauge set to the angle that I want to use, and I guess it's kind of going to be boring for you because you can only see the top half. I also now realize that I didn't actually scribe the baseline. Okay. The last thing I'm gonna do here is mark out what the waist is gonna be. I know the big wide things are the tails that I want to keep. Looks like I can't quite zoom enough to just show. There we go. All right, so then go back to marking the board. I'm only marking the one end here because I'm only going to cut the one end. And so with that done, I can draw some more lines in to help me know what I'm cutting and not cutting. So here's the tails laid out, and obviously I'm cutting off this end. This is the top of the board, and then making a couple of tails, and I'm stopping here, right? I don't need to do anything with this because there won't be anything to connect to. Because just the one side is quite thin, it's about 3/8 of an inch, I'm going to use both of them together in the vise to provide a bit more structure for cutting so that I can eliminate some vibration. Again, these don't need to be perfect angles because this is the first part. I need my match, the tails, to be exact or close to it. But these, if I go off the line, it doesn't matter. I think that one needs a little touch more. There we go. There we go. And then I'll just use the fret saw to take out the waste. There it goes. Okay. All right, so doing the little end here, I mean, I suppose I could use the fret saw, but I prefer to do it with the dovetail saw here. Just making the knife wall. Right on my line, so then my saw stays just above the line, and that way what I cut off here should be above my in my waist, above the marked line. So here's the result. This one here, I'm pretty much right on the line. This one I'm a little above it, and this one I'm just a hair above it. Anyway, something to chisel out and clean up. Oh, this one I'm well below. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, I'm well below there. I was definitely crooked. On the line, and on the other side, well below. Oh well. It's the back of the drawer. Nobody will notice. So I'll just clean that stuff up with the chisel. I'm going to again try to undercut this a bit. This one is too close to the line, so I won't worry about that so much and just go mostly straight. I guess I'm still undercutting a little, but I'm not focused on it really, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna take that out as much as I can from this side. All right. So this is the spot where I undercut on the other side. Get a big chip out. This one here has nothing to cut. I'm I'm well past. So back to this one then, I can try and chop it pretty straight. The purpose of the undercutting is to remove some more of the waste so that when I am working close to the line, I'm then not trying to remove a lot of material. It's just a little bit that I'm trying to remove. And that'll go better because the chisel won't be able to dive as deep, and will just result in a nicer cut. I mean, you can see how much easier that is. I needed the mallet to take out the majority of the material when undercutting, but here, now, there's so little that I'm just, just cleaning it up with the palm of my hand as a hit. And then I'll use the dovetail chisels to get into the actual corners. These certainly aren't a necessary tool. I used 1/8" chisels and marking knives to do this for, I don't know, 8 years probably. All right, that looks good. So, taking note of my marks here, this is the bottom, this is the bottom, so I did it right. This is my bottom board, and it's supposed to be on the inside, so this will go here. So, time to transfer to draw the pins. I don't know if it's interesting or worthwhile to do this in real time and make you watch, but that's what's happening. Doing the half blinds in real time was much more of a commitment. These will come together quick and easy. That's what makes these so much more fun. So actually, since I'm not using the padauk here, the poplar is easy to see. So the way that I kind of prefer to mark up the dovetails, the pins, is to use the pencil. So that's what I'm going to do here. Makes a nice thick line and easy to see. So here is my bottom board, and this is the side that we're working on. And of course, I hope you can see the pencil lines. The camera doesn't really want to focus too well. But in my opinion, those are way easier to see than the knife line. And the only trick to using the pencil lines is to remember where to cut. That is, what is the waist. So, grab the pencil. Let's see if we can figure this out. Here, this is where a tail is. And that's the part that I'm looking to remove. Same with over here, looking to remove the tails. And then this is the part where I'm not actually creating, a matching half pin, because this is the bottom of the board. So this whole piece is kind of waste. I realize I didn't use the marking gauge on this board yet, so I don't know how deep my my lines need to go, or my cuts need to go. Lines too, I suppose. This is the bottom. The whole thing is going to get cut away. So the bottom will get cut away, and the top has a half pin, so that doesn't need to get cut away. You know what? I'm going to mark the other the other side, because I know I'm going to forget. All right. So now I need to finish marking this up. And I guess you're not going to be able to see, because I'm going to mark it on my side. I guess I'm not really too concerned about the precision of the placement of these. I just want it to help me judge that I'm going vertically. So transferring some marks here, I know that I'm making pins, so I want to get rid of the dovetail area, the tail area. And for the bottom here, this whole thing will go away. All right, so here's a look at the board, all marked up. This is what I just marked up. So hopefully it's easy to know where to cut. And in this case, remember when I was transferring the lines, I drew with the pencil. So the pencil is actually in the keep area. And I'm going to cut out the waste. So I want to make sure to leave the pencil lines. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to saw away the material here, but again, my drawer back is very thin, 3/8 of an inch. So I grabbed a side here, and I'm going to use it as a backer, you know, to help add some stability. I suppose an important part here would be that the piece to cut absolutely needs to sit above the backer piece so that it doesn't get cut itself. I mean, this is my drawer side. I definitely don't want to cut into it this way. All right, again, so I want to leave the pencil line. That one I'm a little far away from. I'll need to chisel that away for sure. This one's better. I think that's good. I didn't cut that one great. I'll definitely need the chisel there. And I'm a bit far from there too. Oh well. Next ones will go better, I hope. All right, take out the waste. Got to try and remember to stay up. Especially on the back side, I have a tendency to dive. That's why I end up cutting more here and having a gap. I have the fret saw set up to cut on the pole stroke. So really I want the backer board to be on the other side, but it's easy enough to put a little pressure against here and do it. Okay, and this one I'll cut with the dovetail saw. Let's see how we did. Looks like I just stayed above it on all of them. All right. So again, I'm cutting a little knife wall here. For the saw to right against. And there's a lot of vibration there. So I'm going to go slow and easy. Okay. When I work at more of these, I'm able to get into a little better practice, get closer to this sort of thing where, you know, maybe I can get something to fit off the saw. But obviously these still need a little bit of cleanup to be ready. Not much, but a little. I'm mostly working within a really small spot here, so I'm actually running the vacuum quite a bit in between turning the camera on and off. Trying to undercut a little. I should have stayed away from the baseline on that one, because now the chisel's driven into the baseline. So that's not great. So 2 passes for that one, once undercutting pretty heavily, and now I'm actually in the baseline, and I'll do an easier cut. The middle one here is so close to the baseline, I'm just gonna go for it. But this one I'm gonna do in 2 passes again. Once away from the baseline, heavily undercutting, if it'll stick. And then I'll come back right on the baseline. Working around the angle of the pin is a little bit of a pain. Alright. Those have got to be pretty close. Alright. Okay. Alright, so here's my drawer side, and I check this. This is the bottom inside, and the bottom in of my back. And how is it? Pretty close. This one's a little fat here. So I didn't record, but I used the chisel and cleaned these up a little bit. So I'm gonna take a little bit more off of 2 of these here because I don't feel like they look quite as straight as I think they should be. Anyway, let's see what happens. All right. That is one corner for the back. There it is. Looks pretty good. Certainly far fewer gaps than the previous attempts. So, you know, maybe practice these things before you're doing it on something that matters. Or, like me, just be okay with it. It's practice. One more. This is the back corner of dovetails that I just showed, and I, off camera, did the other side to make the fourth corner, fourth set of dovetails. And unfortunately, I completely screwed it all up. I don't know if you can notice it from this position. This is the bottom of the cabinet. But I have a super long pin here now, and I cut off the dovetail. I cut off the wrong side here. There should be one more dovetail, or dovetail and a half. I don't know. So try and give you a closer view. So you can see a full tail here. And remember, part of this will get cut away for my drawer bottom to slide into. That's why over here on this side, there's a dovetail and then a pin, and then this like supersized, it's not even a half, or it's not even an extra half pin on the end here. It's just the tail supersized. And over on this side, I cut the side first, cut the dovetails, 1, 2, 3, and then I don't know. I blanked. There was a lot of noise here. The dryer was running, the dehumidifier was running, the robot vacuum was running upstairs. So much noise, and I didn't pay attention. So my pin side here, I made that extra long, and that's fine. That'll work just well. Plus, it's the back of the drawer, back of the bottom drawer. Nobody's going to notice. Let's put the rest of it together. All right, here's my drawer box. Here's my drawer front. This is the bottom that's down. Here's the bottom of my drawer front. And this should all fit together pretty easily. All right, there we go. Let me see if I can back up here and show it a little better. Not really. I'm not good at this. There's a drawer box. All right, so this is the opening for it. So I I can say let's try and fit it, but honestly, I know it's not going to fit. I don't know if it was obvious when we were looking at the corners, but I kind of screwed it up a little bit. So let's see. So right here, the back is a little bit high, and of course it should be flush. And on the bottom here, the side here is a little bit low to the back. So yeah, those need to be taken care of. And I think the way I'm going to do it is just playing just a little bit off the top here. I think that's all that will be necessary. All right, and grab the block plane, and that should do it for us. So the way I'm going to create the taper is just by taking a little shaving, then a little bigger shaving, then a little bigger shaving, then a bigger shaving. I think I'm going to try and sort of start again. I think that'll do it. All right. That's easy. You might notice I got some rattle here. The width of the back is narrower because, again, I'm creating a trapezoid actually, because it'll make it easy to put the drawer in. And then it tightens up as it closes. That's pretty good. Drawer front's just a little proud, so I can trim that down, sand it down easily enough. I think that'll work. I know I showed this with the middle drawer already, but here's the trapezoid action from a different angle. My drawer front, or my drawer back, is about 1/4 of an inch narrower than the opening. So that'll slide around a good bit. Really, I could have made it a little bit bigger, you know, another 1/16 or so. If it were a 3/16 opening, maybe even an 1/8, I think it would be fine. But making it narrower really does make it so much easier to put the drawer back in after pulling it out. As it slides down here, you can see it tightening up. We're at this point a fat 16th, 3/32. This is about 1/8 of an inch. Sliding down, we're past the 16th, 32nd for sure. And it's pretty tight at that point. No side to side movement, no up to down movement. So yeah, that's pretty good. I've said many times now, this is a drawer box, just 4 sides, no way to hold the bottom in, nothing more to it than just this box with 4 sides, right? But this doesn't make a whole drawer. So let me show you a drawer from the upper cabinet. This is of course completed, but it's basically the same Paduke front and 4 sides for the drawer box. The bottom is in place here, but I've got, running along the sides and the front, I've got 3 pieces to make the drawer slip. And then in the back of the case here is much shorter to allow the drawer bottom to slide in. So here's a closer look at this drawer that's finished. The drawer slips here are curly maple, and they have a groove in them, and that's where the bottom slides in. It's basically the same as what I've just done, just smaller. Dovetails in the back, half blind up front. The back here is, of course, it's a shorter piece than the sides to make way for the drawer bottom and the drawer slips. So you can see how the drawer slip holds the bottom. The drawer slip is just glued into the, or onto the sides. And then there's just a little screw keeping it into the back. And that's all. This screw right here, I have as sort of a depth screw. So the drawer doesn't slide all the way in. On the upper cabinet, I really didn't do a good job of sizing the length of the sides, and almost all of them I've thrown a screw in there, which of course you can easily adjust just by turning to make the drawer front sit flush. But anyway, you can see the drawer bottom, you can see the drawer slip, how that all fits together. So that's what I'll be doing. The drawer I just made is obviously nowhere near complete. Neither are the other two. Still need to make slips. I do have material for bottoms. I think I have bottoms for all of the drawers between stuff I previously resawed and scrap. So that's great. But still a lot to do. And here's a look at all three drawers in the cabinet. I think it looks good. I think the continuous grain is obvious. Again, I know that this is all going to darken up with some finish. Oil and shellac will go on it, but for the moment, it's pretty cool to see the grain all running, especially along the bottom here. I feel like this is a really strong continuous piece. But yeah, looks pretty good to me. Okay, 3 drawer boxes complete, dovetailed together, half blinds and through dovetails. What do you think? Worth it? The half blinds take a lot of time. I think they look pretty good, and certainly is something that shows off that the cabinet's handmade. I'm sure I could. Yeah, I'm sure these can be cut by machine, but not. They don't look the same. You know, the spacing's different, and it doesn't feel the same. At least in my opinion. I have four tails on each of these for the bottom drawer. Of course, each one of them, like I said, was taking about 20 minutes a piece. So for the next drawers, should I drop to 3? I'm not sure. I think for the top drawers that are narrow, certainly 3 will look fine. Even 2 of this size would probably fit. But for the next one up, I'm not sure if I have to stick with 4 or if I can drop to 3 and feel comfortable with the proportions. I'm also sure there are lots of other ways to build drawers, but this is what I started doing for the upper cabinet, and I wanted to maintain it. So here we are. If you've got any questions or comments, or maybe you think I should be building them a different way so that I can get done quicker, drop a comment and let me know. Thanks for watching.